Hey everybody, Trevor from Just Enough Design here. I wanted to put together a quick video on how to create really powerful and engaging title slides. Now, not necessarily just slides, this could work for reports, or you can even apply some of the same ideas to social media posts, banners, anything else. And really, it's just how do you, with limited text, title, and a subtitle, create something that's impactful. Now, there's a ton of different ways to go about this. And as always, I'd like to suggest you go out and find inspiration. So head to dribble.com, head to Behance, go to Pinterest and find ones that are just beautiful, that speak to your market and look awesome. And they'll give you some ideas to play off of. But you can also, as I like to call it, sort of like a design quiver, where once you get kind of a few ideas down, it's something that you can draw upon anytime you need. So what I'd like to do is just kind of put a few simple layouts that you can do really quickly that add a lot of visual punch to it. So in this case, we're just going to use Google Slides. So nothing special, not even Microsoft Office. So this is just within Google Slides, and we're going to use free tools to do so. For the purpose of this, I created a really quick logo just for us to play off called La Company. Nice enough. Now, the color it spit out was the following kind of really soft blue, which is nice. And then kind of a photo for us to use was this nice kitchen shot with a similar type of color, which was a nice coincidence. Now for the logo, just as a side tip to what we're doing here, Shopify released a really nice logo creation tool. If nothing else, it can get some ideas, or if you need to kind of put together something quickly. So that's at hatchful.shopify.com. It'll ask you a few questions about what industry, what type of mood are you setting, and I'll put together a couple options for you. In our case, I think the one I decided upon is way down here, but not important. It's a fun little tool to play with, if nothing else, for ideas. And if you're in a pinch, you need to get a logo out, it's a really nice option. The photo, of course, comes from an absolute favorite of mine at Unsplash. I just searched for kitchen and came across this beautiful photo. I'm completely free to download and use. So I've brought those both in just as elements to play. So the first thing to do really is, if we bring our logo into the first slide, as you're working with a brand or a company, it's likely that they have a font guide, kind of a style guide. So they'll say, use these fonts, use these colors. They'll kind of lay things out for you. So hopefully that puts it in perspective. But the larger rule or idea is to always ensure that you're using the same fonts throughout, and never really more than two, if you can help it. So in this case here, you can see we have a bit more of a serif font. So serif being the fonts with the little feet on them. So we'll go ahead and change our text fonts to that to stay in line. In our case, I decided to call that one spectral. Do the same one here. So another really great rule of thumbs, doubling the font. I think this really comes down to a sense of contrast or drama. If you're going to bother in having two variations on a font, make it worthwhile. So, and if you double the font size between titles, so between your title, various titles, and from your body text, make sure it's at least doubled. So roughly this is 28, so this jumps up all the way to 52, not exactly half, but like edging towards that. Same with thickness. So if we're going to have the difference, make it dramatic, make it worthwhile. So we're going to make sure this is at least a medium. And in fact, we probably even go for bold or semi-bold there. And this guy here, it's all the way down to light. So you can see there's at least a step. The thickness of it is at least doubled, along with the size of it too. So that really helps us in what we're trying to do. So you want to ensure that there's enough difference between fonts that you're using throughout. So that sets the table for us. And, there's something to be said for, of course, I just mentioned drama, but there is something to be said for simplicity, where especially when you have kind of strong, bold shapes like that, and even bold colors like black, you can see how just aligning things in a certain way, as opposed to just centering it there, like having it left aligned, a lot of white space and empty space really calls to mind a bit of prominence. That's not bad, right? That actually kind of, it's a bit powerful, it's clean, it's simple, kind of nice. Let's play around with that further. So we'll go ahead and duplicate this, and let's bring in our image. So I think the way to think about it is, what if you had the image behind everything? What if the image took up the entire back? What if the image took up a half, left side or right side? What if the image took up a third? and then also apply that for top or bottom, top half, bottom half. So think of the layout of this slide or of your document, whatever you're doing, in full, half, and thirds, and play around and see what you like. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and grab our photo. Copy that here. We'll paste that in. So what would it look like if we just dragged it behind absolutely everything? So this, it actually comes with, it's a great time to have to make things look good. These tools have gotten so nice compared to where it used to be. So in our case, if I right click and I go to crop, it's going to let me do that. This works very similar in PowerPoint as well if you're using that. There's also a selection here. And what I can do, just put it there. Now it's worthwhile noting that's not actually, if you're going to be presenting it, it's not necessary to do this, because naturally from the presentation it will automatically not show. It'll only show what's in that working space. But as we're trying to design, I find it's kind of useful to crop it so you can get a better picture of it. Now it is cropped already. If you want to adjust that photo, just double click in it. Now you can drag the photo around within the cropped area. Now we're going to want to send that to back. Let's see your order. So I right click there, drag down to order, and send it back. And we are presented with a problem. The text is very hard to read. Logo looks nice. That's great, but we can't read any of this text. So a couple options of how to fix this. So we're going to go with our shapes. And I'm going to suggest a couple different ways to approach this. The one is we can just draw behind the shape. And you know what? I even like to kind of drag it off. Let's do that in a second. So put it behind the shape. I'm going to get rid of the border. And then we're going to make that color. Let's try it as the same blue. So reusing, just constantly reusing the same, reuse the same fonts, reuse the same spacing, reuse the same color. Helps with cohesion. Everything makes everything look unified. Okay, now we got this nice blue box. We'll go ahead and press that one, hold select, grab the back one, and order, send it back. Now we got our text. Find it inside of the box. Let's move it around so it's a little easier to work with. Now you'll notice that immediately just enough to the main title is bumping up against that right side. So if you look about the amount of space I have on the various spots there, not lining up. In addition, if you see the left line of our logo, not quite lining up. So that alignment really can be the difference between a really professional looking design and something a bit more haphazard. The human eye loves alignment. So we'll grab that guy. I'll drag it across so it's got a bit more space. I don't mind it kind of hanging out a bit more on the side, makes it kind of a nice visual element. Okay, so kind of nice, just a nice blue, works there kind of nice. Now a different way to treat this as well is we could also go with a bit of a transparency. Let's see. I'll make sure I get the right option. Made it too transparent. So Control Z is your buddy. I mean, you can see here, I'm trying to remember where to find that thing. I clicked the wrong button. Oh no, it's disappeared. Just hit Control Z. You can go back so many steps. It is incredibly useful, and it really helps in boosting your confidence in using these type of apps. You don't need to be afraid. Just try to click it. Doesn't work. Control Z. Head right back. All right, so we're going to try to find. I couldn't find the actual slider itself. I'm sure it exists, but what I'm going to do instead is add another custom one and just work with the transparency within that. So there you go. Now you can kind of see through it. So a bit of a different effect, and now we can actually kind of see through to the kitchen behind. And now that you have this, like, this is where you get to kind of play around and what do you want to try? What does it look like if both the fonts are white? Let's see. Oops. That is not what I want. So we'll go with the white there. And what if this was black? So it'd be able to be seen. right? So that kind of sticks with the logo. Sort of interesting, especially if we made this the right blue. I kind of preferred it looking like that. Control-Shift-Z and actually goes forward. So all the things you're doing, you can move backwards and you can move forward a few until you find what you were looking for. Now, I don't like the contrast of this gray against the back. Two ways I'd suggest to do it. Either one is to change it just to a straight black, and that would work fine. Another one I like to do is take that kind of base color, but then bring that down. So as opposed to using just a flat black, you're using the kind of main highlight color and you're just darkening it. It's subtle, but it's a nice type of approach to it. Okay, so that's kind of interesting, but let's go ahead and duplicate that. And, again, as kind of a bigger tip, this is the type of thing I suggest you do where it's looks kind of good. Duplicate it, play with it. Duplicate it, play with it, because then you can just delete it. There's no, if you remember back with photography, when you actually have to load film, how precious every photo was. But now it's just digital. You just take photo. Same as with this. You can just create 1,000 slides and play around with it. And when you're done, I hate these 99, but I like this one. So play in these spaces. It's really great. Now, as opposed to just having it behind the text, we can drag it right through and have it cover the entire space. So that gives us a bit of a different feel. Now you'll see that caused our alignment to go off. So we'll realign that guy there instead. Right? That's another interesting feel, kind of cool. And you know what? Just seeing this kind of gave me an idea. I don't know if it's going to work. Let's give it a shot. Duplicate. What if the color only took up half? You see these red lines? I absolutely adore this. So in all the new programs, as you drag it through, it's going to try to snap to what you want to try to find. So snaps to the top of the logo, snaps to the middle of the logo. I misspoke, actually. Looks like it's going to go to the third, which is great, but then it's going to snap to the bottom of the logo, right? A bunch of places, and then it's going to snap to half. So in this case, we could do something like that. Not sure I liked it as much as I thought I might have, but still kind of interesting. That's the best part. It's digital. Doesn't matter. Don't like it. Throw it out. Try something else kind of new. Okay, so we had just right behind the text. So we had no image at all. Just kind of interesting text, bold on white. Lots of negative space. We added a photo in the background, but it was hard to read the text. So we added a blue box just behind it, the blue from the logo. Extended that blue across the entire thing. Whole different feel to it. Played around with, okay, what does it look like if it covers half? That's kind of interesting when I say half. Let's try that. What if it took up the other type of half? We're going to have to play with the sizes of the fonts because it is not going to fit. This is kind of interesting. This is good to see. So technically, the left side of the text box lines up the logo there. But if you click out of it, you can see that the actual letter doesn't visually line up. And that's important. So as much as I adore these guidelines, they're just that. They're just guidelines. So hop in and make sure it's actually visually aligned with that one. Now there might be, if you are working with a company and a brand guideline, you have to be careful not to break anything. In that if they, maybe they refuse to allow you to, they will not let you put the name on two titles or two lines. But if it's just a title, shouldn't matter as much. So we got that there. Let's make sure it's visually aligned to the left side. And we'll do the same thing. Let's bring it in. So this is good. So what you're seeing there with that word wow, it's just one word that's kind of floating by itself. That is what's called a widow. So a widow is just when there's one little word hanging there. It feels like an afterthought. It kind of feels like a mistake. As much as possible, either through spacing, sizing, or in this case, just kind of returning another word down, try not to have any widows allowed. Now, as I say that, we can obviously see that design's on its own, but because of its size and prominence, I don't feel as bad about that. So again, guidelines, never harsh rules. Okay, another example. Just taking up to half, but what if the half was the left side only? So now we keep saying half. Let's try something else. So what if instead we don't have blue and we crop this guy, and we'll crop the photo to half. Again, you're going to want to really think about the content you're producing, what you're trying to get across, because as much as this helps the visuals of what you're doing, like if you were selling, for instance, the pots, the blue pots that we were trying to show, this would not be ideal because you can't see them, right? So in the cropping, of course, you want to first and foremost always be serving the message and the purpose. The design is nothing but decoration if it's not serving your business purpose. So let's go ahead and just get that kind of centered within there. There we go. There's another kind of example. When I see like this, I would kind of like to see this reduced a bit. A little bit more white space around it. I make this small enough to one line. Is it too small to really be useful? And I don't mind it. I kind of like it being on one line like that. Not bad, not bad. So that's when the half. And then again, when you're looking at it, how do I feel about this? Duplicate the side, keep playing with it. What if they were reversed? So let's go ahead and drag that over here, drag and select those. Anybody who wants to design something should go back to design programs in the 2000s just to see what it used to be like, and then come to these online free site and try to design something. I think you'd be astounded at the progress. So when I see like this, I kind of want that to go down. Really interesting. Tell you what, I'd like to see one more. I want to see what happens if we have the image take up the top half and then the text is below. And then we'll wrap things up here. So duplicate the slide. It's all digital. It doesn't matter. I'll do a crop. So I'm going to go ahead and drag it there. Drag it up to half. So as you can see, like sticking within half or thirds, it's always a great bet. Now, as I was doing that, I kind of saw this logo was close, kind of gave me an idea I'm going to try here. So what if this is a square, interesting logo? What if that was sitting just bold as anything right in the middle? I'm going to make that a little bit bigger. I'm pressing Shift to ensure it constrain the proportions. So it's a square, stays that way. And then I'm also holding Control so it scales from the middle as opposed to going left, and then I have to realign it. So because I want to scale in place. Now I've messed up, as you can see, and I did not make it big enough to go all the way across. So we'll fix that. There we go. Now let's go ahead and get this centered right below it. It's kind of an interesting centering we have. So when I first started this recording, I did not have many ideas in place, except that I wanted to try and just show halves, basically. Halves and thirds, although I'm going to leave the thirds to your imagination. That's the exact same, just a little bit less height. But how's that for a design? And the only reason this came about is because as I was adjusting it, as I was playing, it just kind of stuck in the middle. It's like, that looks kind of interesting. Why not? There we go. This might be my favorite one that came across, the accidental one. So yeah, a couple things to take away from this. So as you're going through, as you're trying to create a really powerful image, and if it's a banner, if it's a LinkedIn banner, YouTube banner, Facebook banner, if it's a presentation and you just want to have a really nice title slide or a document or report, just remember if you're kind of struggling for ideas, just try full, half, and thirds. So place an image, have text take up the left side, the right side, have the photo take up the entire amount, have it take up half, left side, right side, top, bottom. Move them all around to just see what configuration kind of speaks to you. And as you're going through, and one of the, as I'd like to kind of show here, so much of it is play. The reason you would kind of learn this design software and become comfortable with it is it's going to let you not think about having to, how do you copy? How do I add a color? Instead, you'll have a certain kind of confidence and the ability to play. There's a really interesting thing that happens in the mind, that when you are nervous, when you're concerned, when you're stressed, it actually inhibits creativity. It was found in a number of studies that when somebody is calm, when they're confident, when they're happy, that's the best creative state. There's a lot more flow of creativity and ideas. So if anything, as you're approaching these programs, remember, Control Z is your buddy. You can always go back. There's no wrong answers, and you can just duplicate, play, and try. Get rid of that fear of it so that you can get in and play with it and come up with some cool ideas. Come in with 4 or 5 kind of ideas around, full width, background, half width, and play. See what you can come up with. Like I said, not too bad of ideas that we came up with. I kind of like, with the strength of the logo that we had generated, I kind of like how it sits on its own against the white. I think of those two, I kind of prefer it being on the left, honestly. More than anything, the one I kind of came up with by accident at the end, I think that's my favorite. Right. So hope you found that useful. If would you like any other concepts covered or any other particular program covered? I'd love to hear from you. You can find me at Instagram at JustEnoughDesign. Same with my Facebook group and my website, justenough.design. Would love to hear from you and produce you some content. And until the next video, cheers to your great looking work.